Since you just used the word avoid, there is a chapter in your book about avoiding, sort of be careful with an avoider. Beware avoiders, I think. And you say avoiding, this isn't necessarily about them, but you say avoiding conversations that reveal intentions is an incredible waste of time and demonstrates a lack of respect for oneself. And you point out that there can never be one avoider in a relationship. Both people have to be avoiding the difficult conversation. So that's the other thing that I really struggle with. And I realized very recently, like, oh, my parents were chronic avoiders. Like, to this day, my question for you is, like, I'm sure there are listeners who will relate to this. I have a really hard time initiating a difficult conversation in person. I can do it over text. Is it really important to do it in person? And if it is, are there any tricks? Because, like, I'll practice. I'll be like, 3, 2, 1, say it. And I just won't. I'll feel like I'm going to throw up.
That's so hard, though. That's the hardest way. Don't ever 3, 2, 1 yourself.
Are there tips? If
That's
it's important,
so much pressure.
If it's important to have a difficult conversation in person, and I will just say that a therapist once told me that it is. He was like, the outcome of those conversations are different in person because eye contact really helps someone bring their walls down. So as much as possible, have these sensitive conversations in person. But to this day, have never initiated a difficult conversation in person. So just wondering if you have advice about that.
Yeah. Well, firstly, I think, Nava, for you and anyone else in that position, is having extraordinary amounts of compassion for yourself in why it is that that's a pattern in your life in the first place. It's not, this didn't come from nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, you're not deficient, you're not broken. There's not like something wrong with you, that everyone else seems to be so great at confrontation and dealing with difficult, firstly, many more people than let on have a hard time with confrontation and difficult conversations. Yeah. But it's also, you have to have compassion for the fact that these patterns were developed in a time where you weren't choosing any of your patterns. So what's happening is you're thinking of having a hard conversation with someone, and even before you get there, your nervous system is having a response. And that nervous system, there's fight, flight, freeze, faint, fawn, all different nervous system responses, and you're having one of them, right? And we beat ourselves up and we shame ourselves when we're having a nervous system response, as if like there's something wrong with me, but it's not. That was a response developed at a time in your life where you weren't choosing any of the way that your brain and your nervous system was getting wired. And so, of course, you feel terrified of having a hard conversation. It threatens your fundamental sense of safety. And so understanding that is actually a really valuable thing, because not only does it allow you to have maximum compassion for yourself, but it also allows you to depersonalize how valuable this whole nervous system response is making this person in front of you. In other words, it makes you realize, my nervous system is telling me that this is life or death if this person leaves. And actually, it hasn't got anything to do with them, because I've experienced this with many people in my life, and I'll experience it with the next person after them. So it's not a reflection of how important they are or how powerful they are. It's a reflection of how powerful my nervous system response is to a situation that was created long before I had any agency or say in how my nervous system got linked up. What we can then do is, from that place of awareness and compassion, because once you're compassionate with yourself about that, actually it gets easier, because you no longer think you're broken. You're like, oh, of course I struggle with this. And then you can say, what are some small ways that I can start to build this muscle that I never got encouraged in me in childhood? And then you start to work that muscle in those small ways. And you can start with smaller conversations. You can start to have things in the book that help people with just some ways of bringing things up that aren't antagonistic, but allow you to be honest about how you're feeling about something. This is how it's made me feel. I'm not trying to make you wrong. I'm not trying to make you the bad person, but this is how I feel in this. And if you follow the rule, this is a really important principle. If you follow the principle that I am going to spend more time thinking about how someone makes me feel than how I feel about this person, your life will change. Because it's in your anxiety about bringing something up. Part of what you're telling yourself is this person is so important and I don't want to lose them and they're really great. And all of that is like how you feel about them, but none of it has anything to do with how they make you feel. And there's a huge distinction. Who we want to be around are people that make us feel great. And the people that make us feel great aren't just the ones who come to the table giving us everything that we want and meeting our needs as a mind reader. The people that make us feel great are the ones that when we express a need, it goes well. When we talk about something that's hurt us, it makes the relationship stronger. Those are the best relationships. And if we then, so now we're into, there's a reframe I can give myself that any relationship worth having is made better by a hard conversation, not worse. So if someone leaves because of this hard conversation or because of me, God forbid, expressing a need, something I need a little more of, something I'd like a little less of, if it gets worse as a result of that, then this person has failed the test of being someone who makes me feel good. So it doesn't matter how I feel about them. They failed the most fundamental test that they need to pass for me to continue investing in them or thinking that they are an important person for my life. And that can make you braver because all of a sudden the stakes don't feel high anymore. The stakes are really high if I have a hard conversation and you leave and I'm like, I lost another person who was right for me. No one can be right for you that leaves after a hard conversation.